Hey everyone, it's Deb with Deb's Joyful Designs, and today we're going to be looking at some of the different Cricut models and comparing their features. If you see something you enjoy, give us a like, share, comment, or subscribe. Thanks for watching. Let's get crafting. So there are quite a few different Cricut models, but I'm going to be focusing on the Joy, the Explore, and the Maker. And I'm also going to highlight the differences between the Explore Air 2 and the Explore 3, as well as the Maker and the Maker 3. So first, let's take a look at the Cricut Joy. So as you can see, the Joy is definitely smaller than the other machines. It's only about 8 inches wide. And it's designed like that so that it can be portable. So this is something where if you're traveling and you want to bring your crafting materials, you can bring the Joy, where a Maker or Explorer is going to be a lot harder to do that. And the Joy has some of the capabilities that the other machines have, not all of them. It can cut 50 plus materials, which does sound like a lot. But then when you think about what the other machines can cut, they can cut a couple hundred different materials. So that's just something to keep in mind. This is really great for if you need to make some quick cuts or you need to make several of the same design. It can cut up to 4 feet long, or if you're cutting multiple of the same design, it can cut up to 20 feet long using the smart materials. So it is compatible with the smart materials. Or you can use regular materials with the mat, and they do make the vinyl and the transfer tape all sized appropriately for the Cricut Joy. So that's really good to know. It does have some other cool features here too. It can make the long cuts without the cutting mat. Another really cool feature that this has is the ability to use cards, or to make cards, I should say. If we check out right here, they sell cards and inserts so that they're already made for the Cricut Joy, they're already sized, and you can just create your design in Design Space and put the cards in. They have a special mat for making the cards as well. So that's pretty cool. And the Joy does have the option where you can use one of the pens, or you can use the cutting tool. You can't put them in both at the same time like you can with some of the other machines. So you do have to change out your tool. But when you consider the portability of this machine and all the other things that it has to offer, that's kind of just part of it, that it's a smaller machine, so it's a little different. It is kind of intended to be used in combination with one of the larger machines, just because it is limited on what it can do. So you do want to think about that you probably aren't going to only have a Cricut Joy, but this makes it so that you can do some of those quicker cuts without having to use your full machine. So that's some of the pretty cool stuff about the Joy. So next, let's look at the Explore 3 and the Maker 3. As you can see, these look pretty similar as you're looking at the machine, and they are pretty similar size, but there is about $100 price difference. That can fluctuate a little bit depending on sales. So let's look at what makes the Maker the more expensive machine. So one of the big differences is the amount of materials that the Maker can use versus the Explorer. So the Maker can cut fabric, it can cut leather, it can do the balsa woods. So those are materials that the Explorer 3 cannot cut. So if you are interested in trying to do some of those, or even if you think that later on you might be interested in doing those, then I would definitely invest in the Maker. If you already know off the bat that you're not interested in those and you just want to cut vinyl or just iron on, then the Explorer is probably going to be the best choice for you. So that's one of the big differences, is the materials. And then if you look at just continuing on, The Maker also has a lot more tools available. So like the knife blade you can use, and the engraving tools and the debossing tools. Those are all ones that you cannot use with the Explorer, which go back to some of those materials, such as the leather and the woods that the Maker can cut, whereas the Explorer cannot cut those. Some things are pretty similar. The cut speed is pretty similar. They can both use the smart materials. So the smart materials are the long cuts of vinyl that don't have to use a mat with them. So this is a relatively new thing, as of recently at least, and it lets you be able to cut really long stencils. So on this, both the Explore Air or the Explorer 3 and the Maker 3 can use those smart materials. So pretty much the same right there. The roll holder can be used with both. That is for the smart materials. Since they don't have a mat, you can attach that to the machine so that it keeps it really straight in line and it will feed into the machine better. And then most of the rest of this is pretty much the same between the Explorer and the Maker. All the apps are the same. They can both do the print then cut. So that's one of the big differences, that remember the Joy can't do the print then cut. So these machines both can. And then the Maker does weigh a little bit more. Really neither of these machines are the most portable. You can pack it up and carry it, but it's a little bit bulky to do that. I've personally never done that with my Maker, so I wouldn't do it with either of these machines, but I mean, you could if you wanted to. So yeah, they take about the same amount of space. So really it comes down to the materials that it can cut and the different tips that you can use with it. And that's the biggest difference between the Explorer 3 and the Maker 3. So last, let's just take a look at all of the machines together. So like I said, I did want to touch on the differences between the Explore Air 2 and the Explorer 3, as well as the Maker and the Maker 3. And really the biggest difference between those is just the smart materials. So the Cricut Explorer 3 and the Maker 3, you can use those smart materials, so you can cut much longer stencils or decals or whatever it is that you're cutting. You can't use the smart materials very well with the Explore Air 2 or the Cricut Maker. They're just not designed for them. Some people do try to do it and it seems like it works okay for them, but it's really not designed for that. So if you know for a fact that you're gonna be needing to make really long decals or really long stencils, you're definitely gonna want to consider the Explorer 3 or the Maker 3. That's really the biggest difference, as you can see, like between the Explorer Air 2 and the Explorer 3. They use the same tools, they use the same materials. The big difference is that cut length, where the Explorer 2 and the Maker 2 can only cut just under 2 feet, and the 3 machines can cut much longer if you're using the smart materials. So that's the biggest difference between those. And then, as you can see, the Joy is on here as well. So the Joy just has the 3 tools that it can use, kind of like we talked about. The Joy has limited functions, so you would usually use that as a portable option in addition to one of the other machines. Or so what some people do too, if they're making a lot of things and they have some that could be made on the Joy, you can run the Joy and cut what can be done on the Joy there, and then use the machines simultaneously so that you can get more done quicker. So that pretty much covers it. They are all Bluetooth compatible. The Joy is only Bluetooth compatible, so the Joy doesn't have any buttons or anything like that on it. And then of course the other biggest difference is the price. So as you go up for the different models, the price goes up too. Of course that's just something to consider. And that pretty much covers the differences between all these different Cricut models. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch, and I hope you found the info helpful. If you plan on buying a Cricut, let us know which one in the comments, and I'll also link these different models down below this video. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel for more crafting tips and tricks. See you next time!